Welcome everyone. In 2023, the sports marketing landscape witnessed something extraordinary. A cultural phenomenon that organically transformed the NFL's digital presence. I'm Yejo Chan. Please feel free to call me Dr. Q or simply Ty. And today, we'll analyze how the unexpected romance between Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce created a fascinating case study in social media impact. We'll examine how this high-profile relationship naturally bridged two distinct audience bases, leading to unprecedented engagement on Instagram. What's particularly interesting isn't just the star power involved, it's how this organic cultural moment generated significant social media traction without traditional marketing orchestration. Through this analysis, we'll explore the implications of unexpected cultural convergences on digital engagement and what we can learn from this phenomenon about modern audience behavior and social media dynamics. Let's dive into how a love story that began in 2023 sparked one of the most intriguing social media case studies of our time. Let me share a personal story that captures the unexpected reach of this cultural moment. My wife, Tracy, who worked in China's entertainment industry before moving to the States, comes from a culture where the NFL holds about as much relevance as professional table tennis does here. Yet last year, she surprised me by asking about Travis Kelce and specifically requesting to watch an NFL game. Now, what makes this particularly interesting is that she's not even a Swiftie, but this cultural moment was compelling enough to spark her interest in a sport she'd never voluntarily watched before. This small example illustrates something much bigger, how an organic cultural crossover can attract entirely new audiences to the NFL, breaking down traditional barriers without any deliberate marketing strategy. It's just one story, but it hints at the broader global impact of this phenomenon. As we see from Tracy's story, Taylor Swift's mere presence can organically attract attention. Yet, there's a fascinating contrast here. While Taylor simply needs to be herself and enjoy the game, the NFL faces a more nuanced challenge with their social media strategy. Looking at these Instagram posts, we can see both the opportunity and the delicate balance required. The comment section tells the story. While some fans embrace this cultural moment, others remind us that football should remain the focus. For every excited new viewer, there's a longtime fan concerned about the sport's traditional identity. The NFL's approach to content creation here requires careful consideration, unlike Swift's naturally organic presence. It's about finding that sweet spot where you can welcome new audiences without alienating your core fan base, who's there purely for football. To better understand the nuanced dynamics, let's put some numbers behind this phenomenon. We track the NFL's Instagram activity related to Taylor Swift from September 2023 through February 2024. During this period, the NFL posted 41 Swift-related pieces of content on their Instagram, generating over 200,000 comments. Our analysis focuses on two key metrics: engagement and sentiment. While engagement, like plus comments, tells us the quantitative story, how many people interacted with the content, sentiment analysis reveals the qualitative aspect, how people felt about it. For sentiment, we used an open-source large language model, specifically fine-tuned for social media sentiment analysis, which scores comments on a scale where -1 represents the most negative reactions, 0 indicates neutral responses, and +1 reflects the most positive sentiment. This combination of metrics gives us a more complete picture. Not just how many people are talking, but what they're actually saying. Now, let's map out Taylor Swift's presence at Chiefs games throughout the 2023-2024 season. This timeline visualization tracks both regular season and postseason games, with filled red dots indicating Swift's attendance and empty circles showing her absence. Here's a fun fact to start with. The Chiefs won 10 out of 13 games when Taylor Swift was in attendance. While that's just an entertaining correlation, the timeline reveals an intriguing U-shaped curve in the NFL's Swift-related content, starting strong with 11 posts during her first appearance at Game 3 against Chicago, then significantly tapering off mid-season, before ramping up again during the playoffs, peaking at 10 posts during the Super Bowl. The NFL's approach here raises some interesting questions. Did they deliberately pull back mid-season in response to potential fan pushback, only to capitalize on the narrative again during the high-stakes playoff run? Or was this organic evolution? Their cautious yet opportunistic approach suggests they were carefully balancing the massive engagement potential with their core football identity. Notice also the consistent drip of content, even during non-game days, 5 separate posts, spread across different dates, indicating a measured attempt to maintain engagement. Looking at the monthly data, we can observe some interesting patterns. Starting with 13 posts in September when the story first broke, we see a pullback to just 4 posts by December before ramping back up to 13 posts during the Super Bowl run in February. The engagement numbers tell an interesting story, peaking at 647,000 in January during the playoffs, but sentiment adds a crucial layer to our understanding. Despite strong engagement, sentiment scores remained consistently negative, ranging from negative 0.146 to negative 0.292. This persistent negative sentiment, even during high engagement periods, suggests that while this content successfully drove interaction, it may have created some tension with the NFL's core audience. Looking at the post-by-post breakdown reveals some striking insights. The engagement levels show dramatic variation ranging from 28,000 to 1.5 million interactions per post, with spikes often coinciding with key games or viral moments. The average engagement of 446,000, being notably higher than the median of 389,000, tells us that certain posts significantly outperformed others. What's particularly telling is the sentiment pattern. Despite these impressive engagement numbers, the sentiment score consistently hovers in negative territory with a mean of negative 0.21 and a median of negative 0.22. This consistent negative sentiment, even during high engagement posts, suggests that while this content successfully drove interaction, it maintained a contentious relationship with the NFL's audience throughout the season. These numbers reinforce our earlier observations about the NFL's challenging balancing act between capitalizing on new audience engagement and maintaining their traditional football-focused identity. Now, we have tracked the numbers, observed the patterns, and seen both the highs and lows of this social media phenomenon. Before we examine specific posts that represent these extremes, let us pause to consider 3 key questions that will frame our upcoming analysis. First, what makes certain posts stand at opposite ends of the spectrum, from 28,000 to 1.5 million engagements, and from highly negative to marginally positive sentiment? Second, what drives this intriguing disconnect between high engagement numbers and predominantly negative sentiment? Third, what patterns might emerge when we compare the most and least successful posts? Keep these questions in mind as we examine specific examples that illustrate both ends of the spectrum. Let us start with our third most engaged post from Swift's first NFL appearance at the Chiefs-Bears game. This post features Mahomes' playful post-game interview comment that Travis wanted to get into the end zone just as much as all the other Swifties wanted him to. The result? Over 930,000 engagements, more than double the average. Interestingly, its sentiment score of negative 0.12 sits better than the overall mean of negative 0.21. The NFL struck a balance here by letting the story unfold through Mahomes' natural, good-humored post-game comment. This organic approach, using game action and authentic player reactions, showed how the NFL could acknowledge the cultural moment while keeping football at the forefront, although we need to take the timing of the post into consideration. Moving to our second most engaged post from Super Bowl Sunday, we see a dramatic spike in engagement. This post-victory celebration moment captured 1.49 million engagements, more than triple our average of 446,000. Its sentiment score of negative 0.30, while more negative than our mean of negative 0.21, is actually still far from our lowest score of negative 0.39. The timing and context make this post particularly noteworthy as it captures an intimate victory celebration moment at the Super Bowl, the biggest stage in American sports. The massive engagement reflects the historic nature of the moment, while the moderate negative sentiment suggests that even at such a pivotal moment, the NFL's audience maintained their mixed reactions to this cultural crossover. Our most engaged post comes from the AFC Championship game in Baltimore, capturing Swift's emotional reaction to the Chiefs' victory. With 1.5 million engagements, this post slightly edges out the Super Bowl celebration while maintaining a similar sentiment score of negative 0.29. What is particularly interesting is the parallel between our top 2 posts, as both capture intimate victory celebration moments at crucial playoff games. The engagement levels are nearly identical, and the sentiment scores are remarkably close, negative 0.29 versus negative 0.30. This suggests that when it comes to high-stakes moments that blend personal celebration with major football milestones, the audience response pattern is quite consistent. Now, let us shift to our third least engaged post from the Chiefs' loss at Green Bay's Lambeau Field. With 149,000 engagements, it falls significantly below our average of 446,000. The post highlighted Swift's arrival, notably emphasizing Swift's 12-time Grammy Award winner status in the broadcast overlay. This post's relatively low engagement yet moderate negative sentiment is telling. The focus on Swift's celebrity status rather than any game-related content might explain the limited engagement. However, the sentiment score, being close to our mean of negative 0.21, suggests that the audience's reaction was not particularly extreme. They simply might not have found the content compelling enough to engage with. Our second least engaged post represents an interesting attempt at content creation during a non-game day. This Swift-Kelce 101 educational post for Swifties garnered only 44,000 engagements, just 10% of our average, and received a notably negative sentiment score. The post's attempt to directly cater to Swift's fan base with a crash course on Swift-Kelce appears to have missed the mark with both traditional NFL fans and potential new audiences. The comments visible in the post, questioning the NFL's strategy and expressing skepticism about new fans, reflect the more negative sentiment. This suggests that explicit attempts to bridge these two fan bases might be less effective than the organic, game-focused content we saw in our higher-performing posts. Our least engaged post comes from postseason during Swift's Eras Tour in Melbourne, with just 28,000 engagements, about 6% of our average, and a strong negative sentiment score of negative 0.34. This post, which attempted to quiz Swifties about NFL players versus Swift's dancers, illustrates the risks of creating content that strays too far from football. The visible comments, particularly one asking to stop off-season posting, reflect the audience's fatigue. Coming after the Super Bowl victory, this kind of content appears to have struck the wrong chord with both traditional NFL fans and Swift's fanbase. The timing, format, and forced connection seem to have combined to create what our data suggests was the least successful approach to this cultural crossover. Let us switch gears to sentiment ranking. Our third most positively received post comes from Swift's first game appearance against Chicago, featuring a candid moment between Taylor Swift and Swift-Kelce, Travis's mother. The post generated 410,000 engagements and a near-neutral sentiment score of negative 0.05. What is notable here is the NFL's light touch, their simple caption, "They're so happy," lets the moment speak for itself. This early post from September 24th captures the natural excitement of the relationship's public debut without overtly pushing a narrative. It humanized the story and gave it a relatable dimension that fans could connect with. Next, the second most positively received post also comes from that first Chicago game, achieving a nearly neutral sentiment score. While the engagement was moderate at 184,000, the sentiment score certainly stands out. The NFL took a notably simple approach here, just stating Taylor Swift in attendance with a brief caption about Swift-Kelce. Despite some visible negative comments, this straightforward, factual approach to documenting Swift's first appearance seemed to minimize controversy. Our most positively received post is particularly interesting. It is not about Swift or Kelce directly, but rather highlights Kristen Juszczyk, an NFL fashion designer whose work has been worn by Swift and others. This post generated strong engagement at 730,000 and achieved our only positive sentiment score at 0.07. What makes this post successful is its focus on organic NFL-adjacent content that naturally connects to the broader cultural moment. By spotlighting a talented creator within the NFL community who gained recognition partially through Swift's visibility, the post celebrates football culture while acknowledging new influences in an authentic way. This suggests that indirect, value-adding content that bridges football and pop culture through genuine stories and achievements can resonate more positively than direct celebrity-focused content. On to the opposite dimension. The third most negatively received post comes from that first Chicago game, but takes a markedly different approach from the neutral announcements we saw earlier. This meme-style post about dads waiting all day to see if the rumors were true generated 235,000 engagements, but received a significantly negative sentiment score of negative 0.37. What is interesting here is that while the content captures genuine reactions and attempts to show the widespread impact of Swift's presence, even among unlikely demographics like NFL dads, the approach seemed to backfire. The high negative sentiment, despite showing authentic moments, suggests that explicitly highlighting the Swift effect on traditional football audiences might have touched a nerve with the NFL's core fan base. This stands in stark contrast to the successful straightforward announcement posts from the same game, indicating that even authentic content can miss the mark when it appears to emphasize the cultural shift too directly. Our second most negatively received post shows Swift and Brittany Mahomes doing their celebration handshake during the Chiefs' win over Los Angeles. Despite generating significant engagement at 490,000, it received a notably negative sentiment score. Interestingly, this post attempts to showcase the camaraderie between Swift and Brittany Mahomes. While the moment itself was authentic, the NFL's caption, "Learning this handshake ASAP," might have appeared to be trying too hard to amplify the cultural crossover. This reaction suggests that even genuine moments of integration between Swift and football culture can face pushback when they appear to shift focus away from the game itself. Our most negatively received post showcases Taylor Swift, Brittany Mahomes, and another friend sharing a fun moment in the stands during the Chiefs' victory over Los Angeles. Despite generating substantial engagement at 635,000, the sentiment score was strikingly negative. The NFL's attempt to highlight Swift's growing camaraderie with Brittany Mahomes may have appeared to some as an effort to promote a crossover between pop culture and football that did not resonate with all audiences. The authenticity of Swift participating directly in capturing a moment for Brittany, coupled with the celebratory dance, was intended to emphasize genuine enjoyment, but seemed to clash with expectations for football-related content. The mixed response suggests that moments showcasing celebrities, interactions beyond the game, even those as spontaneous as these, can struggle to align with traditional football fans' expectations. Now that we've explored some specific examples of posts standing at opposite ends of the spectrum, I'd like you to revisit the questions we posed earlier. Please take a moment to pause the video here and jot down your thoughts on these questions. Reflect on what you've observed and what we've discussed, and consider how both content and context may influence audience reactions. Before we wrap up this analysis, let us summarize our key takeaways. First, keep it about football. Posts that stayed focused on game action performed way better. Videos from big moments like Mahomes' funny post-game comment or the Super Bowl win had great engagement because they brought the excitement of football to the front with just enough cultural crossover. Moreover, video content proved to be particularly engaging as it tied the excitement of football with personal moments. Second, be authentic. Authenticity matters. Genuine moments, like Taylor Swift hanging out with QLearning, really clicked with people. Less is more. Posts that felt real and unforced did well, whereas obvious pandering, like the Swift-Kelce 101 for Swifties, missed the mark. Third, be strategic with the Taylor Swift effect. No doubt, Taylor drives huge numbers, but her presence often brought mixed reactions. The best performing posts, like the one highlighting the NFL fashion designer Kristen Jazizik, found a smart way to link her influence without overdoing it. The trick is to blend her presence naturally, so it does not steal the spotlight from the game. Finally, always think about the big picture. We saw that high engagement did not always mean positive sentiment, especially if the focus drifted too far from football. The secret is to keep football at the heart, be genuine, and let cultural moments enhance rather than take over the story. Now, let's take everything we've discussed and apply it. Picture yourself managing the NFL's Instagram this weekend. The Chiefs are playing in Buffalo, and Taylor Swift is performing nearby in Toronto. Two massive events happening at the same time. Your task: come up with an idea for an Instagram post that will drive high engagement while keeping the reaction mostly positive. Remember, it's all about balance. Using cultural moments to enhance the game, not overshadow it. If you've come up with an initial idea for the NFL Instagram post, let's take it a step further. We're going to use the Coster framework to refine and enhance your concepts with generative AI such as ChatGPT. Costar is a structured way to shape content, developed by the winner of the world's first prompt engineering competition held in Singapore last year. It will help you dig deeper into the different elements of your post to make sure it hits the right notes. Let's break down how you can apply it. Context is about what's happening in the NFL this weekend. Think about the Chiefs game and their opponents. How can you set the stage effectively? Objective is about what your specific goals are for this post. High engagement, building a connection between pop culture and NFL fans. Define what success looks like here. Style is about how are you presenting your content. Will it be playful, like a meme or a behind-the-scenes moment? Or will you go for something sleek and dynamic, like an action shot or a simple, impactful visual? Tone pertains to what voice you will use. Is it humorous and light to engage both Swifties and football fans? Or maybe energetic and hype, focused to fuel the excitement of the weekend? Audience refers to who you are speaking to. Consider the different expectations of traditional NFL fans versus Swifties. How do you make it appealing to both without alienating either group? Lastly, response specifies the technical requirements for your output, including exact caption structure, image dimensions, hashtag strategy, tagging protocols, call to action placement, and any platform-specific formatting requirements. Use CoStar to refine the idea with generative AI. Jot down answers for each of these points as you work through your concept. This structure will help you build a more cohesive, engaging post that connects well with both audiences. As we wrap up today's session, I hope that experimenting with the CoStar framework and leveraging generative AI has helped improve your content creation process. It's all about taking a structured approach and then enhancing it with creative tools. Hopefully, this exercise has given you a new perspective on how to create impactful content. We've seen how pop culture and sports can create unique engagement opportunities and how important it is to strike the right balance to keep different audiences engaged. Remember, the goal is to celebrate the game while welcoming new cultural elements in a way that feels genuine. If you're interested in digging deeper, I encourage you to check out one of our recent podcast series, When Love Story Meets Cruel Summer. It offers more in-depth insights into how Taylor Swift's influence is reshaping the NFL's cultural landscape. Definitely worth a listen if you want to explore these ideas further. With that, thank you all for your thoughtful participation today. I hope you enjoyed the content and experimenting with these tools and frameworks. Keep refining your creative process and pushing boundaries. I'm excited to see how you continue applying these lessons to your work. Have a great day. Keep learning and keep creating.